Hi, I'm Simon Finch and I'm Fin on Twitter, and my responsibility is e-safety, and I was asked to come down to the social media village, which is on the ACER stand, E100 here at BET 2013, and I was asked to talk about the pros and cons of teachers using social media, and I gave it some thought and decided that we would give it a title of Willies and Enemies, which was the ins and outs of social media. And the reason for that kind of became apparent as we moved through. So I started by talking about why we would want to engage children on the internet, why we would want them to be part of blogging. And so it started at its most rudimentary thing, which is that when you want children to write, let's take that. When you want children to write, you want them to write for a purpose and to write for an audience. And so in the olden days, you would celebrate that by putting it on the wall so other children could see it, or the teacher would read it out. When the internet came, it would be a website, a school website, or the school newsletter, and you would publish it there for the parents to see, the wider community. By using social media, that audience becomes not just a local or a regional, but a national and an international audience, but also you're able to leave comments so that we're able to receive feedback. So I showed a class of 5, 6-year-olds who were just learning to write and how they were using Twitter. And then I showed, we have a teacher in Stockton who had done a space project, and the children had done a blog about the space movement, and they received not just a comment from a female teacher astronaut, but also a signed picture and further information saying that she enjoyed so much the work that they were doing, and that is absolutely fantastic. Back in the day, we used to have to lie to kids that we'd had a letter from NASA and we had a letter from a spaceman. Here they're having real ones, and it's to bring space and NASA into a classroom, which is absolutely fantastic. I then moved on to talk about teachers using Twitter as the largest staff room in the world, and mentioned EdChat, which is a place where all English-speaking teachers, in this case, whether it be the Americans or the Australians, you have this 24/7 of great ideas. Even if you don't want to use Twitter, you could access the archive and read it. You could print it and read it. And then the next thing that I talked about was teachers blogging. Quite often, for many of us, you feel a lone voice in your classroom, not necessarily appreciated within your school. By blogging and reflecting on the work that you've been doing in your classroom, you can receive feedback from like-minded teachers, and I gave an example of a head teacher from an entirely different area feeding back on a classroom teacher. Now that's got to make our teachers' day and help them to know that they're not alone. And so then I moved on to the downside, and the downside were endless examples of teachers that had ended up in the local and national and international press for inappropriate pictures on Facebook, for inappropriate comments. I drew their attention to how teachers can, in some cases, be a little more easy in what they're talking about in an evening or at a weekend or at half term. And I have a great example of a long discussion between teachers about how rubbish parents are at listening to their children read. And they've done this at half term because they weren't teachers anymore. They were teachers on their holidays. And so having done that, we then moved through to, well, actually, what are the messages that we take from this? The messages are that social media are a fantastic opportunity, and we need to embrace that opportunity. We need the rest of the world to understand that it is a valid activity for a teacher to be using Twitter and to be blogging. It's not a waste of time. But within that, we need to post like our enemies are watching. Who's managing your identity? If you're not managing your online identity, then collectively other people are by what they post about it. And then if I have one final message, it is nothing is private. And that's what I spoke about for about 20 minutes. And it's actually what I do most days when I'm back in the office.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.